Hey ladies, it's episode 15. I'm talking about self-care, but I'm wondering, is your self-care really self-sabotage? Let's dive in. Welcome to the Health, Life, and More for Women podcast with certified health and life coach, mom of four, and just all-around lover of all things 80s, your host, Jennifer D'Amato. Buckle in, let's get started. Hey ladies, I love talking self-care. I think if there was like an award or at least a badge for those who are big advocates for self-care, I would get it. I mean, no, seriously, I would get it. I never understood in my 20s how much I would value at the age of 40 self-care. Um, I think the 30s teaches us that. So I don't know if you're listening to this and you're in your 20s and you're like, yeah, like I have self-care, no problem. If you're in your 30s, you're like, oh my gosh, I'm so desperate for it. And if you are beyond 30 and you're just like, yeah, I totally get it. It's just something we have to do. I value it. I'm with you, Jen. But I want to take a different spin on self-care today. If you go to Target and walk through the clothing section and you're looking at those graphic tees, I have teenagers, they're really into graphic tees, and I like some of them. But I always am perusing because, especially my oldest, like it's kind of her jam. That's all she wants to wear is graphic tees. So I'm rummaging through these, and there's all these shirts. You can tell they're for moms. They're geared towards moms. And they all have to do with drinking wine. Like, have you noticed this trend? Is it just me that everything's about wine? Now, there's some things about coffee, but most of the things are about drinking wine. And it just sparked this thought about self-care that we've sort of associated self-care with things like having alcohol, a glass of wine at the end of the day. If you're like, Jen, well, I really don't do that. I get it. Maybe for you, it's Netflix. Ooh, here we go. All right. Maybe it's just binge watching those shows. You feel like that's a form of self-care. Maybe it's ice cream at the end of every day. I have a friend who legit, that was her jam. Ice cream at the end of every day. Here's the thing. Self-care can really borderline on self-sabotage. What I mean by that is we're really not caring for ourselves. We're not living into our best health if we're having alcohol every single day. We're not caring for ourselves if we're eating ice cream at the end of the day just to escape our day. We're not caring for ourselves if we're sitting at the end of the day binge watching show after show on Netflix. Are we really caring for ourselves when we do those sorts of things? You might disagree with me 100%. That's okay. I used to be the person who absolutely self-sabotaged and called it self-care. And for me, it was alcohol. I would make myself a drink at the end of every day. Yep. Didn't matter, good day, bad day. It did start with wine, right? That seems socially acceptable to have a glass of wine at the end of the day. Target's making shirts, so it must be true. But for me, that wasn't enough. So I started having a glass of gin at the end of every day. Don't worry, I mixed it with something fruity and delicious. So again, it seemed totally okay. However, this act of self-care was self-sabotaging everything for me. It was sabotaging my health, number one. I mean, I thought that one drink, which, okay, I'd like to tell you it was a small drink. Y'all, it was not a small drink. That one drink, though, was seriously putting me behind the next day because I would wake up and I would be dehydrated. I would wake up and have that tinge of a headache. I would wake up and just feel lethargic. I didn't sleep well. It is scientifically proven having alcohol before bed actually affects your sleep in a negative way. Yes, you might pass out, you might fall asleep easier, but you don't actually hit that REM sleep that you need for deep sleep. It really was affecting how I showed up authentically myself. Because the thing is, I didn't want to be showing up as myself. That's the reason I would have a drink. I was sort of done with the day. I was stressed out. I didn't feel joyful or grateful. I felt frustrated. I felt exhausted. And I didn't get that what I was doing and calling self-care was actually contributing, increasing the feelings I was having of frustration, of stress. I didn't get that. Again, I put this label of self-care on it, except it was self-sabotage. I believe that the end result of self-care should feel like an uplifted version of you, an improved version of you, a relaxed, a de-stressed version of you. You might say, okay, Jen, I watch Netflix at the end of the day. I put on the TV and just sort of numb out from the day, watch a couple hours, and then I go to bed. Great. Do you feel your best? Do you feel de-stressed? Because I know for me, if I've spent my evening that way, I wake up the next morning feeling stressed because generally I've used Netflix, right? That time of just checking out to not do things that I need to do, right? Again, sabotaging myself. Maybe it's not my health, but it's not setting me up for success the next day. Therefore, it ends up feeling like I'm behind when I've barely even started. And maybe for you, that Netflix at the end of the day, that hours of nothingness in front of the TV is sabotaging your health. You look at the next day, oh, I don't have any time to move my body. I don't have any time to prepare meals. And then every time I talk with clients about this, it gets back to how did we spend our time? And inevitably, they've noticed there's a huge chunk of time, not 30 minutes, not even an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, they spent watching TV, watching Netflix. When I say, okay, where is your time in your day to move your body? And all of a sudden, it's this huge aha moment that they thought this was self-care. But the self-care they really want is to feel their best, is to move their body, is to lose weight or exercise, whatever it is. And they go, oh my goodness, I have 2 hours. I have 3 hours of time that I'm using to watch TV. I guess I could have worked out. I guess I could have gone to the gym. I guess I could have taken that walk instead of vegging out in front of the TV. It's not to say there's not a time and a place for this. It's not to say I never watch Netflix at the end of the day. I enjoy that. But I will tell you I enjoy it more when it's not used as self-care, when it's not used as an escape, as a way to numb out. When I've been productive, when I'm set up for success the next day, I enjoy sitting on the couch, hanging out with my husband or my daughters and watching something with them. Even if that means we sit for an hour, I'm still going to honor my bedtime because let me tell you, sleep is self-care for me. I love sleep. I love a good night's sleep. That's top on my priority list for self-care. And the reason that has to be on the top of the list is because self-care is going to the gym for me. Self-care is working out. For me, I have set those things at the top of self-care. I know that there's other ladies out there that the top of their list is getting their nails done. I'm just not that girl. Top of their list is maybe getting their eyebrows done or their hair. Now, Mama don't want to have gray hairs. So that is on the list, but it's not the top of the list. So let's start there. What is your self-care? What does it look like? Now, you may say, Jen, I don't even have any. I have nothing. I don't have any sort of self-care. Well, that's number one. Let's find things that you do consider self-care that make you feel relaxed, de-stressed, and a better version of yourself. But if you already have things that are self-care, let's write out that list. What are the things you do? And you might start noticing that some of those things that you thought were self-care, that you're using for self-care, are self-sabotaging. Maybe they're sabotaging your health. Maybe they're sabotaging your routine. Maybe they're sabotaging relationships. Go ahead, make that list, and let's start taking out those things that really are not self-care. Maybe it's not 100% removal, but it's starting to eliminate them on a daily basis. Maybe you're like me and you've noticed, yeah, I have a drink every single night. Let's reduce that to 3 nights a week and see what happens. See how you feel on the days you don't have that. What other things do you need to incorporate? Maybe it's a hot bath. I have had so many clients who love to take a shower at the end of the day as self-care. Like, it's amazing. They just feel like no one can bother them. They put some music on because, maybe taking a bath isn't their thing and they want the shower. What things can you put in place if you're starting to reduce those self-sabotaging habits? So maybe it's also been ice cream for you or some other sweet treat. I know a lot of people who they have to have dessert. I've had clients tell me that I have to have it. Well, I don't believe you have to have it. I believe you want it, like you really, really want it. So what can we replace that with? Maybe it is something sweet that you want and you find that there's a great substitute like fruit. Or maybe you're just eating out of boredom. Maybe your body wants sleep at the top of the list of self-care. I've had so many clients who force themselves to stay up when their body just wants sleep. What if that's what your body wants and you're making it stay up? And therefore, what happens to most people when they make themselves stay up to watch the Netflix, what do? They grab food because their body actually is trying to have some energy. It doesn't actually have the energy to stay up. So they feed it food to give it some energy to continue to stay up. And then here we go. We affect our sleep. We affect the next day. Harder to get up the next day. We're feeling groggy. And then we end up in this whole cycle. So maybe for you, self-care is sleep. What would happen if you woke up fully rested? Would you have missed out on watching some TV? Yeah, sure. But how would you show up the next day? Hey ladies, before I continue with episode number 15, I just want to hop on here because I can't believe there's only 2 episodes left for 2019. You guys, we're ending a decade. Season 2 of the Health, Life, and More podcast for women is going to be fire. I'm so excited. And I would be so honored if you would share with other women in your life so that they're here for the beginning of 2020 in this podcast. So go ahead, pause it now, share it right in your text messages, invite other women into this conversation. All right, let's hop back into the rest of this episode. I believe that self-care is not about survival. We don't need it to survive. But self-care is about thriving. When we incorporate healthy self-care, we can fully show up. We can thrive in this life that we have. So I want to choose things, and I want you to choose things that honor that. Do you feel like you're fully thriving from your self-care? And for me, I feel like I'm thriving when I get a good night's sleep, when I move my body, when my hair is not gray. I feel like I'm thriving. I did not feel like I was thriving drinking alcohol every night, binging Netflix, eating food that made me feel terrible and calling those all self-care. People used to ask me, and they still ask me this question, Jen, how do you do it all? And before my answer was, a glass of wine at night, that's how I get through, and a cup of coffee in the morning. Nope, I don't want that to be true for me. When I'm asked that question now, I tell them it's because I take care of my brain. I take care of my body. I take care of my soul. I sleep. I move my body. I hydrate my body. I incorporate self-care that makes me feel amazing so I can do all the things. Now, listen, I don't pretend to do it all. That's a discussion for another day. However, the fact that people see that and perceive me doing all the things is truly because I stopped self-sabotaging and actually started incorporating real self-care. It's my desire that the discussion here today motivates you to reflect on what you're calling self-care and really see, is it serving me? Am I thriving or am I self-sabotaging? What a great time of the year. If you're listening to this and it's the end of 2019, what an opportunity you have to say, you know what? 2020, it's a new year, it's a new decade. And I'm going to make some changes right now that will affect the rest of my life. Whew, what an awesome opportunity. All right, here's to all the self-care until we meet again. Hey ladies, want to connect with me outside of this podcast? Come follow along on Instagram at Jennifer_health coach for life. That's Jennifer_health coach, the number 4 life. You can also connect with me on Facebook. Just search Jennifer Coach, the number 4 life. I also want to help you take your health, both physical and mental, to the next level. I want you to feel empowered. I want you to reclaim your body's intuition. If that's for you and you're ready for support and accountability like you've never had before, then why not book a free consultation with me by visiting my website, www.healthcoach4life.com. That's www.healthcoach4life.com/request session. I've also made it really easy by including a link in the show notes below. For any questions about the podcast or to submit a question or topic you would like discussed here, you can email me at jenniferdamatopodcast@gmail.com.